begin. This Planning Commission meeting is called to order. This meeting has been properly noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. These proceedings are being video recorded as well as presented live on KCLV Cable Channel 2. Please note customers of CenturyLink and Cox Communication can view this program in high definition on Channel 1002 and in standard definition on Channel 2. You can also watch this meeting live on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV on the Go Vegas app. The Planning Commission meeting, as well as all other KCLV programming, can be viewed on the internet at www.kclv.tv/live. The proceedings will be rebroadcast on KCLV and the web the Saturday of the meeting at 10 a.m., Monday at midnight, and the following Tuesday at 6 p.m. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chair Cherry.
Present.
Vice Chair DeSalvio.
Present.
Commissioner Schlottman.
Present.
Commissioner Toussaint. Present. Commissioner William.
Present.
Commissioner Rogan. Excused. Commissioner Chadha.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. To the audience, I call your attention to the information printed in our agenda concerning our actions in the appeal and review process, if appropriate. There's agendas on both sides of the podium. If you'd like to grab one, please read these carefully. And if you have any questions, staff is available. Also, the second page of the agenda contains our rules of conduct. We appreciate you adhering to these rules so we can have a smooth meeting. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, all comments made under this item for specific action will be cross-referenced to those items. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak under this portion of the agenda? Seeing no one, we'll move on to item number 5. Vice Chair DeSalvio, can we get a motion on the minutes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, please, can I make a motion to approve the minutes of August 13, 2019's Planning Commission meeting?
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries. Let's move on to our housekeeping items. Are there any items that commissioners, staff, applicants, or members of the public would like to pull forward for action?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Nathan Taylor, A414 West Farm Road, representing item number 21. As you know, this item was heard last month, and I was not representing this applicant at that time. There were some suggestions made by several of the commissioners. Commissioner Schlottman, his district. I've also talked to Vice Chair DeSalvio about some suggestions he had on the record last month, and we want to comply with those suggestions, make the footprint smaller as we've discussed, add some more landscaping, and with that, I'm going to be submitting a new site plan, new elevation, so that we can make this a little easier for everybody, so I just request a 30-day hold so I can bring it back.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. And that would be to the October 8th meeting.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yom Kippur.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go to staff.
Mr. Chairman, we have some housekeeping items. The applicants are requesting to withdraw without prejudice items 22 through 25. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair DeSalvio, can we get a motion?
Just for clarification, I'm going to add 21 to that. Okay. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion for approval on the housekeeping items number 21 through 25.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries. Okay, moving on to the one motion, one vote portion of the agenda. The following are items that may be considered in one motion, one vote. They're considered routine, non-public, and public hearing items. All public hearings and non-public hearings will be opened at one time. Any person representing an application or a member of the public or a member of the Planning Commission not in agreement with the conditions and all standard conditions for the application recommended by staff should request to have that item removed from this part of the agenda. Item number 7, TMP 77066. Applicant owner Durango Beltway Plaza LLC for possible action request for a tentative map for a one-lot commercial subdivision at 8635 West Rome Boulevard, Ward 6. Staff recommends approval. Related item number 8, item number 8, ZON 77074, applicant owner Juan A. Fernandez For possible action on a request for a rezoning from PR to C1 at 4224 West Charleston Boulevard, Ward 1, staff recommends approval. Related item number 9, VAR 77073, for possible action on a request for a variance to allow a 75-foot lot width where 100 feet is the minimum required, Ward 1, staff recommends approval. Item number 10, applicant, SUP 77032, applicant Round 1 Entertainment, Inc., owners Seritage SRC Finance LLC, for possible action on request for a special use permit for proposed 42,518 square foot liquor establishment use with a waiver to allow a 0-foot distance separation from a church, house of worship, and a 100-foot separation from a private and public school, where 1,500 feet is required at 4,000 Meadows Lane, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. Item number 11, SUP 77085, applicant Serenity Funeral Home, owner Metropolitan Community Church of Las Vegas, for possible action on request for a special use permit for proposed mortuary or funeral chapel use at 1140 Almond Tree Lane, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Item number 12, SUP 77086, applicant Octapharma Plasma, Inc., owner 1999 LLC, for possible action on a request for a special use permit for a blood plasma donor center use at 2101 South Decatur Boulevard, Suite 23 through 25, Ward 1. Staff recommends approval. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard in these items? Seeing no one from the public, I'll close the public hearing and go to Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to approve the one motion, one vote, items 7 through 12.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, items 7 and 11 are final action. Item 7 is final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 7 days, and item 11 is final action unless appealed to the city clerk in 10 days. Item 8, 9, 10, and 12 will be going forward to City Council on October 16th, 2019.
Okay, moving on to the public hearing portion of the agenda, we are going to pull forward item number 33, DIR 77214, applicant owner, City of Las Vegas, for possible action on a presentation by the Department of Planning regarding progress on the Las Vegas Downtown Master Plan. Staff has no recommendation.
Good evening, Chairman Sherry. My name is Michael Howe. I'm Long Range Planning Section Manager, and with me I have my coworker, Maria Jose Norero. With your permission, Chairman, I'd like to give a brief presentation on the status of the Vision 2045 Downtown Master Plan. So, beginning about 5 years ago, under the direction of then Director of EUD, Scott Adams, we heard from many of the property owners, business owners, and developers that the Downtown Centennial Plan was a bit dated in its vision, it lacked the breadth of what we felt was a full downtown area, and so we initiated a fairly substantial master plan overhaul. 3 years ago, in that time, we've adopted the plan, and to put it in perspective, as a 30-year plan, that 3 years, we're now 10% into the plan. So with that Vision 2045 Downtown Master Plan, I do want to emphasize the amount of outreach and learning moments that we had through that process. And we had over 10 separate council meetings, meetings with city council members, executive steering committee members. We met with over 2,400 individuals of the public. We've had over 100 stakeholder meetings. A pretty thorough breadth of outreach and a lot of learning and input moments that came into a different planning process. So much so that we took that process and we're learning from it in our new citywide 2050 master plan, which I'll get to in a moment. So, real quickly,
Oh, no.
we're gonna go through the highlights of Las Vegas. And out of all the work out of the Downtown Vision 2045 Master Plan, it's really summarized in the 5 big ideas. And within these 5 big ideas, it encapsulates multiple policies and implementation actions on economic redevelopment, open space development, business expedition. So we've classified them into diversify the economy, create mixed-use hubs, create streets for people, create a greener downtown,
and expedite implementation. A lot of this should sound familiar. We're 3 years into the process, and again, we're just kind of reiterating and refreshing everyone's memory because there's a brief moment where potential confusion where we have a 2045 downtown master plan that's been adopted while we currently have a 2050 citywide master plan that's underway being drafted and being put together. Again, I want to reemphasize that we're using the processes that we learned from the 2045 downtown master plan and exploding that lesson and growing that scale out into the citywide 2050 master plan. So over the time, you'll hear, when we go back out, we're talking about the master plan outreach. We're now talking about the citywide plan, not the plan that's been adopted. So again, a real quick recapture. When we talk about the downtown master plan, it covers 12 downtown districts. We have Historic Westside, Cashman, Resort and Casino, Fremont East, Founders District, Civic and Business, Market District, Las Vegas Medical District, the Gateway Design District, and in the heart of it, 18B, the Arts District. So this all comes down to, we've had the plan, again, we're 10% into the lifespan of the plan, multiple points. A lot of issues came up, quality of life issues, business development issues, economic redevelopment issues, multiple implementation points. It really comes down to, well, how do you measure the success of the plan? We've had this global vision, a lot of buy-in, a lot of people supporting it, very successful, but what are the data points? What are the things that you indicate you're going in the right direction? So with that, if you ever refer to the downtown master plan that you have at home, printed copy sitting on the bedstand, it's page 65, you'll see that score sheet. But we have with me Maria that's going to go into detail breaking out some of those key points. And in that process, we've also learned that there's some indicators, some measurements that we're going to include and break out because they give a little more information than what was originally captured when the plan was adopted. But real briefly, we're looking at growing residential, commercial, employment, civic, and institutional. It was put together as a fairly aggressive projection. Numbers being numbers and being very careful, and Maria will go into it very detailed. The good news is we're 10% to the lifespan of the plan. We're already have met 20% of those projections. So we're doing a good clip. We're making good progress. And we'll go into detail on some of the areas that we want to focus in on and figure out how to grow those more. So with that, I'll hand it to Maria.
Can I stay over here, or do I have to go over there? Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to throw some graphs at you, and you promise to be patient with me, and I'm going to explain them. But if you have questions, just speak up, right? It's just us. Well, we have a crowd with us that will probably come along for the ride. Okay, so out of some of the analysis that we did in order to see how we're meeting these projections in the master plan is looking at planning applications, and those are the applications that come forward before this board. So what we found out is that out of all of the areas, there are some that are doing better than others, right? And some that maybe we didn't even think of measuring that are doing well. So the big winners is hospitality, civic, and residential. So planning applications that have come from 2016 through 2018, we see a high amount of applications coming forward with that. And the numbers that you see here are square footage. The light blue is a projection that Mike just showed you from the master plan, original projections, and the orange is what we've approved so far as a planning department from 2016 through 2018. The reason we're using 2016 is because that's when the plan was adopted, so we want to show the success of implementing that master plan. So just as a snapshot, we see that hospitality is doing great. We've completed the projection like 400%. Civic has done great. As you know, we just approved the municipal courthouse last year, so that's included in that number. Projects like that are going to make leaps and bounds in the success of some of these numbers and these projections. And residential is doing great as well. Keep in mind, these are planning applications, so this is just people that have come forward and asked for permission to build from you, correct? The next sections that we're not doing too hot is office, retail, institutional, research and development, and K through 12. This isn't a huge surprise. We knew during the master plan implementation process that these would be harder developments to attract to downtown. And as you know from the work that you've heard from EUD and from IT, all of those departments are working really hard to get these projections up, and we feel like in the next few years, we're gonna see these numbers skyrocket. So we're not too worried that we haven't gotten there with these, but it is good to know and not just drive around downtown and just kind of say, oh, there's a lot of bars, there's not a lot of offices. It's good to see the numbers and really see what's coming so that we can be prepared as a municipality for the, for these projects. The last section are the general commercial. So some applications come forward with general commercial, and we don't really know what they will be eventually, right? They just come with the permission to be general commercial. One of those, for example, that fits in this gray area that could go in lots of different spaces is the World Expo Center. That was approved between 2016 and 2018, but it could be retail, it could be, convention space, it could fit in lots of boxes. So that one is one of those projects that's in general commercial, to give you a sense, but it's done really well, and we wanted to have general commercial square footage brought to downtown, and we're doing it as far as planning applications go. The other two categories I want to briefly mention that were not included in those projections is mixed use and active ground floor. Mixed use is basically retail on the bottom or some commercial use at the bottom and residential at the top. Every downtown that you know and love has mixed use downtown, so that's the number that we want to see. And we think that with form-based codes and other tools like that, we're going to see a lot more mixed use and a lot more high-quality mixed use. So we're excited to see that number going up. And then active ground floor is your basic outdoor dining, right? You go to a restaurant, you can sit outside, there's umbrellas, there's chairs, maybe there's additional features. We can see that businesses are taking advantage of the improvements that we're making, and we can see that they're probably gonna take advantage of the improvements that are coming down the pipeline, which Mike is gonna mention, like 3rd Street and Main Street, those kind of things. We want to see ground floor activated so that when people are walking downtown, they feel like there's people watching, there's activity, there's business activity. It's really good for business and good for our residents and our visitors. So those are also highlights that are great that we just didn't think about in the projection of the downtown master plan. So this is just a mental break from the graph, so take it in, enjoy it, there's more coming. But as you know, not all planning applications that we approve here, that you approve as a board, get built. We hope that most of them do, and I'm sure that many of them have the intention to do so, but not all of them get built. So we really wanted to look at what is actually being built. So we wanted to look at building permits. That is the quickest way for us to see what's actually getting built downtown, not just what's thinking of getting built. So this slide shows you the black line at the top is the projected total development for downtown, which is 11.454 million. And then the blue bars are the building department permits, so anything that got built that had new square footage that was being added or completely new. And then the orange is the planning applications that we just went through, but just totaled for each year. And at the end is the total from 2016 through 2018. But basically what you can see is that for building permits, we have about 1.7 million square footage of development that was added downtown, which is about 15%, a little bit over 15% towards that projection in just 3 years, which is great. And then as far as planning applications go, that's way over what we should be. So even if a fraction of those 5.6 million planning applications get built in the next couple years, we're going to be completely on trend to get to that projection in that master plan, which are all great things. And then just quickly, we also wanted to review business license categories at the bottom to the top. So these are the top 20. So the number 1 category is at the bottom of that graph, and the 20th is at the top. I hope that makes sense. So general retail sales, not surprisingly, it's a very general category. It's a common category to obtain as a business license. These are all new business licenses that were opened downtown from 2016 to 2018. And it just shows you the top 20. The good thing to take away from this is that there's a variety. There's a lot of different businesses opening up. We don't see 2 or 3 categories kind of taking it away and then everyone else floundering. There's lots of different businesses moving downtown, and that's what we want to see. So hopefully the variety and just the types of businesses This one, we're still working a little bit on analysis. Business licensing is a fantastic division, but they know their numbers so much better than anybody else does. And it's a complicated business. A business can have multiple business licenses, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to do a deeper dive on this, and hopefully we have some better information to show you. Plus, not all business licenses cost the same, right? So, you know, having someone invest a large amount of money in a business license that's maybe a privilege license is a little bit different than someone that's just opening something, you know, small. So. And then the last thing, I promise, as far as graphs go, is land vacancies. So that's another way that we can analyze how we're doing downtown, how much is getting built. We did an analysis that actually went until today based on assessor's data for downtown, and we have currently 12% of parcels are vacant. And what we mean by vacant is completely empty. There's no parking lot on it, there's no empty building on it, it's vacant, it's ground. We hope that as years go by and development continues to come downtown, that this number will go completely down, right? Or at least significantly down. So we hope that in future presentations just like this, as we show you a progress report of the Vision 2045 Master Plan, we can show you this number as just kind of a quick target of, okay, vacant land is going down by 2% or going down by 50%. So that's just another kind of small little indicator that we can use to kind of measure progress on the plan. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Mike.
Thank you. So really, in a quick summary, as bureaucrats, we may be thick-headed, but we do like to learn. We do like constant improvement. And really, that's what this master plan was about. We saw a trend coming before the plan, and we saw a lot of moments where learning on the ground, learning during inspections, things we didn't want to see occur again. So that really led into some of the initiatives, and that goes into the new development standards. And this is something I think you've all heard me go on about the form-based code and some of the advantages and why it really rose to the top as one of the chief implementation policies. Again, the form-based code is a context-driven code that really tries to set up a predictable pattern for a given area. In that time, we have adopted it for the Las Vegas Medical District. We have it scheduled for hearing for the Fremont East District at the October 16th City Council, and we will begin work on the historic West Side beginning in October. It's our goal to have the full 12 districts under a form-based code, again, for many of the advantages for implementation, but it also has some distinct advantages on the back end when you're in the field. It gives you the things that we've learned with grease traps and having really tight setback standards and things like that. This code is really developer-driven. You can solve problems with design versus having to come back and rehear items and get waivers like we've learned in the past. Another key component, the Downtown Civic Space and Trails Plan that was recently adopted, that's taking a very invigorative approach to looking how to get open space downtown. We want as much park space as possible, knowing that there's a potential management responsibility that goes with that. Not to count it, but to put things into perspective, when we saw that 20,000 square feet of what we call outdoor activated space, those are the outdoor dining areas. That 20,000 feet is almost 4 acres of open space that doesn't really count for, but that's a space that's attractive, it's privately maintained, and it really contributes to that downtown activity, the pedestrian activity, the quality of life. And we're really trying to pair up that type of thinking with open space. How do we build things that may not be parks but are still inviting, attractive, and can be managed by the private, publicly inviting, but then having an advantage for the adjacent residents and business owners. And then the development process improvements, real quickly. This is where I do my Oscars. Thank you. I have to go look over to Fire, Public Works. I have to be careful. I would really name every department in the city, but Fire made a great contribution with the adoption of the 5+2, the podium fire height, where we can do lumber stick-built over 2 levels of concrete. That really greatly reduces the cost of a 7-story mixed-use building. Really looking forward to taking advantage of that with the new coding process. Public Works and EUD joined together is probably one of the most powerful tools that we've had yet to date. You really can do a lot with your sidewalks and your roadway and your parking. And when EUD is in on the formula and you start working with the private property owners, we're learning that things really start moving quickly. And from that process, that's where you hear at times Project Enchilada. I really want to toss that out there, that Project Enchilada, when you hear it, is not an independent process. It really is incorporated and ingrained with the Downtown Master Plan. It's rooted in all the implementation and policies that we want to see What's unique about it is it does involve the city attorney's office and a lot of the other departments to really reach out and have those discussions with the private property owners and the business owners on how quickly can we bring these improvements to the downtown plan area. It reaches beyond just Fremont Street. We have activity in historic West Side with job development. We have activity in the Founders District looking at improvements around potential partnerships for public-private art parks. And then really want to land on infrastructure investments. This is the stuff that I think people get most excited about. They see it, the main commerce couplet. With that completion, with the lighting, it really got people excited. During First Friday, it's really loaded. The next step is we would like to see some of the adjacent development trigger. We'd like to see more stuff follow. We do have the 3rd Street linear open space under construction right now. That's a very wonderfully unique type of roadway improvement. You'll see that that's 3rd Street between Charleston all the way up to Bonneville. If you get a chance, it's a little bit tricky. Downtown has a lot of infrastructure improvements, a lot of roadway improvements, which are all, again, rooted in that downtown master plan. We had the very fortunate timing of having RTC's fuel revenue index funding available, and we have multiple streets, Colorado, California, 8th Street, 7th Street, 6th Street, Fremont, lots of roads coming in, but not just streetway improvements. They're coming in with trees, with sidewalks, with those quality of life improvements for a walkable, bikeable downtown. And again, this shows that multi-system ingrained approach that this downtown master plan had put together. And then real quickly, again, just to recapture, we're 10% into the plan lifespan. But at this point, we have new target areas. I think with that 3 years, we have a good focus. We'll stay on point with the plan, but now looking at some of the opportunities that are going to come up with 3rd Street upon completion, and again, working closely with the Office of Economic and Urban Development and Public Works, we're going to start seeing more development, hopefully quicker. So with that, if you have any questions, I know I tried to get through this really quickly.
Thank you very much. So thank you for the thorough report, and you guys always do a great job with it. It's always wonderful. I will open up to the public if anyone would like to comment. I don't see anyone coming up. I'll turn it over to the staff or commission for discussion. I mean, I just had a couple quick questions. On the civic portion, parks are included in that.
No,
They're
parks
not.
are not included in that.
Okay, so like the 3rd Street Park is not part of that?
Nope.
Okay.
There's a separate category in that little yield summary scorecard, which we actually printed and included it in your packet, just so you know.
Okay.
You don't have to strain yourself on the presentation, which actually has parks and green streets as two
Oh,
separate categories.
In the open space?
Yes,
Okay,
in the
gotcha.
open space category. That's an excellent question.
And then on the general commercial, where it's 750,000 square
Mm-hmm.
feet, isn't the world market like 300 and something thousand square feet?
So it might be just the addition was added during
Okay.
2016 and 2018. So we're only tracking new development, so it would only be the addition that they proposed. But I can
Okay.
take a look and make sure.
No, I just
All the
curious.
information is from the agenda items, so if something's wrong on the
Yeah.
agenda, which I'm sure it isn't.
And Chairman, I would like to add to that, because there was a discussion on that point, the classification of it, because we are looking at growing a convention-type industry for downtown.
Right.
Which was mentioned in the downtown master plan, but not as a category that we were tracking. So we would be going into more detail of, because Symphony Park will be providing responding development, anticipating that convention space, we want to make sure that we have that number called out so that we can show the impact that that has.
Yeah, and one more comment, I think, before I go to Vice Chair DeSalvio is, you mentioned the vacant parcels are at 12%, which is great to understand, but there's a lot of parcels that are, I guess you could say, in transition, that would probably paint a little better picture of what's happening in downtown. I mean, I used to office on 3rd Street in an old house, and with a good windstorm, the whole thing would come down, and it's a tear down.
Right.
And then hopefully for future development. So it would be good to understand what those transition parcels, I think, to where it potentially could go in the future.
I think that's an excellent point. And obviously, we're just using land vacancy as one metric
Right.
with all the others, because it would be dangerous to go down that road of just looking at land vacancy.
Absolutely.
You're
Yeah.
absolutely right.
Yeah. Vice Chair DeSalvio?
The only question I had is is the difference between tobacco sales and tobacco dealer?
I wish we had business licensing here to answer that, because it's one of their categories, but we can get back to you on that. There's a lot of business licenses that are slightly different. I think one of them was like auto dealer major, auto dealer minor. So there's probably a level of intensity, especially with those more privileged licenses. But I can find out for you and get back to you.
Thank you.
Well, that was a great report. Thank you very much. Are we just accepting this report?
Mr. Chairman, you can accept the report. I believe this report is also going to be given to the city council at a future date as well. So
Okay.
you don't have to do a full motion, but it is agenda for possible
You know
action.
what?
if you want
Let's
to.
have a motion. I'd like to make the motion, a motion to accept that wonderful report. So motion on the floor, please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Chairman, it actually has, this will be heard at the October 16th, 2019 City Council meeting.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 13, abeyance SDR 76350, applicant owner True Love Missionary Baptist Church, for possible action on request for a site development plan review for a proposed parking lot expansion at 1941 H Street, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Could we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant has provided an updated site plan that adds landscaping materials along the eastern property line. However, staff finds that the proposed landscaping is still inadequate and would have a negative impact on adjacent and surrounding developments. Staff therefore recommends denial of the application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
Scott Marks, 416 Pine Cliff Drive.
Thank you. Would you like to tell us about the application?
Yeah, so we would like to extend the parking lot. We initially submitted a plan in July, and that was put on hold, and we met with Commissioner Williams on site, and he gave us some suggestions that the city might like to see. We got to explain our plan a little bit more in detail with him. Basically, what we're trying to do is just extend the parking lot for some dust mitigation. We'd also like to add some beautification to the site. So we plan on adding beautification by adding landscaping along H Street. And then also the perimeter is actually a drainage zone where we'll be adding riprap rock, kind of a decorative landscaping rock, to kind of bring up the overall appearance of the church. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard in this item? Seeing no one, I will turn over to the commission. Commissioner Williams?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Marks is correct. We did meet on site to evaluate, the recommendations and ideas, and so I can see where they do propose adding the Blue Point junipers there on the east side on H Street. This plan doesn't reflect the river rock for dust mitigation.
It does not. That was an oversight by the engineer's office to put the riprap rock on there, but it is the eventual plan of the church to put in the riprap rock around the perimeter of the parking lot.
And is the plan to install that in conjunction with the shrubs on the east side barrier?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mr. Chair, based on the conversations and really understanding what the applicant is looking to do here, I'm ready to make a motion.
Please do.
In reference to item SDR 76350, I'd like to recommend approval.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, this item is final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 10 days.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Williams, for working with the applicant over the last couple of months. Appreciate that.
I'd also like to thank Commissioner Williams and the commission for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Moving on to related items 14 through 17. 14, abeyance VAR 76590, applicant owner Rubio Ramirez LLC, for possible action request for a variance to allow 39 parking spaces where 50 parking spaces are required at 1385 and 1395 North Nellis Boulevard, Ward 3. Staff recommends denial. Related item, abeyance VAR 76594 for possible action on request for variance to allow a 0-foot side yard setback where 10 feet is required, a 0-foot rear yard setback where 20 feet is required, to allow a 0-foot residential adjacency setback where 70 feet is required, and to allow a 6-foot tall front yard wall fence where a maximum of 5 feet with a 2-foot solid base is allowed. Ward 3, staff recommends denial. Related item 16, abeyance SUP 76595 for possible action on request for a special use permit for proposed auto repair garage use with waivers to allow vehicles to be parked on the premise for sale and to allow the use adjacent to the property zoned RE where such is prohibited. Ward 3, staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the requested variances and waivers reinforce the unsuitability of this site for the proposed project with the surrounding commercial and residential developments in the area. Staff therefore recommends denial of all applications. Please note that there are additional photos in your supplemental information packet. Also note that there are additional letters of protest since publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, good evening. Richard Gallegos, 6725 Southeastern, here on behalf of the applicant. Also with me is the owner's representative. Introduce yourself.
My name is Alberto Jauregui, address 3505 East Harmon, Suite B, Las Vegas, Nevada.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, I want to first thank staff for working with us on this challenging site, as well as Commissioner Slotman for his time. We do want to go on record to state that we do accept and understand staff's if approved conditions. And with that, I want to turn it over to Alberto to give you just a little background of the site and how we got to where we're at today.
Good evening again. A little history regarding this property and maybe the family who owns it now. About 4 years ago, they acquired this property at a very, for the lack of word, full of stuff. I mean, there were, in my opinion, hundreds of tires, used tires and debris and auto parts that were making an unsightful place. The property has since then changed a lot during that ownership. The property is corner of southwest of Nellis Boulevard and Monroe. The Nellis frontage is currently an auto dealership, and the westerly part of the property, which is, you know, as we call it, the rear, which is the frontage of Monroe, is where they currently operate the auto repair business. I don't know if the photo will be in this area. I'm going to cover you. This is, this is currently, if I'm not covering it up, the frontage of the Monroe view, which is where the auto repair exists currently. And then here's a broader, did you get a chance to see it correctly? This is a broader picture of the frontage of the area in question. The proposed development is converting the existing shop there is now to this new development as it shows in this picture. The description of the zonings to the south, there is C2 zoning, to the east, C2 zoning, and to the north, C2 zoning. There is a residential component to the west, which is this portion right here. So the Monroe frontage is where the view of that other rendering to show you is what will be the view. We met with the family who owns this lot, the residential lot, several times, the Lopez family, and they indicated a positive for us to move forward with this development, or their support. They would prefer the building that we are planning to develop to be against the property line, and instead of creating a separation of landscaping with the fear of maybe intrusion of people or animals or trash, or maybe landscaping that it wasn't protected or taken care of. The other question or the other wishes that they indicated to us was that they don't want to see lights pointing towards their home, their future home that they're planning to build there. In addition to that, they also mentioned that they would rather have a smooth face block wall rather than a split face, which is what we propose, and Richard can talk a little more about the building in a minute. So with this, we turn it over to you for any questions for Richard or for myself, and if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. This is noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard in this item? Seeing no one, I will turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commission, I opened up. Yeah, no one came up.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, so I think staff did a great job with writing the report, and I appreciate the applicants coming and meeting with me and going over this project, because I wasn't too thrilled about this project at the very beginning, a few months ago when it came to the Planning Commission. And now seeing the new plan, I know that y'all worked with the council person, and I'm not sure what all of her input was, but my input to you was I like it. I like the split face versus the smooth. I know y'all said the neighbor wanted the smooth. I would prefer to keep it the split face facing them. And you know, the columns that you have facing the neighboring lot to the west, I think that's great. I think the building's a lot better. One of my comments, just so the Planning Commission understands, was it has a block wall that's existing out on Monroe, and I didn't like that block wall because it allows the applicant to put tires or parts or broken down vehicles in the parking lot. And I think this neighborhood is has a ton of places where it's just trashed out with vehicles and everything else. So by putting in more landscaping and getting rid of that block wall, yes, the bays will face Monroe. However, I kind of like that because it allows everybody to see into that property and kind of forces you to keep it a little bit cleaner. So in saying those things, I like the way this went, and I'll see if anybody else has any comments.
Commissioner Schlotman, I believe I made an error and I didn't read in item number 17, so I'm going to quickly read that into the record, if you don't mind. Related item number 17, abeyance SDR 76597, for possible action request for site development and review for proposed 8,228 square foot auto repair garage facility with an existing 1,308 square foot motor vehicle sales, development and parking lot reconfiguration with waivers to allow deviations to perimeter landscape buffer, development standards to allow building facades with no visual interest where such is required, and to allow a service bay door to face the right-of-way where such is not allowed. Staff recommended denial on that as well. I will open it up for public hearing on that. This is noticed as a public hearing on that item. If anyone would like to come up. Not seeing one, I will close the public hearing. I'll go back to you, Commissioner Schlotman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, on item number 14, VAR 76590, move to approve, subject to staff's conditions.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes.
Mine says 13. Should say 14.
There we go. Thank you. Okay. Please cast your votes.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, on item 15, VAR 76594, move to approve, subject to staff's conditions.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And, Mr. Chair, item 16, SUP 76595, move to approve, subject to staff's conditions.
Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And finally, Mr. Chairman, item 17, SDR 76597, move to approve, subject to staff's conditions.
Thank you. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, those items are final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 10 days.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. Thank you.
Good night. Moving on to related items 18 through 20. 18, abeyance, VAR 76903, applicant Joe's Bar, owner 2851 North Rancho LLC, for possible action request for a variance to allow 35 parking spaces where 146 spaces are required at 2851 North Rancho Drive, Ward 5. Staff recommends denial. Related item, abeyance SUP 76904, for possible action request for a special use permit for proposed 3,470 square foot liquor establishment and a 5,025 square foot outdoor seating area with a waiver to allow a 638-foot distance separation from a church where 1,500 feet is required. Ward 5, staff recommends denial. Related item, abeyance SDR 76905, for possible action request for a site development plan review or plan for proposed 5,025 square foot outdoor seating area addition to an existing 3,470 square foot commercial building. Ward 5, staff recommends denial. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, no evidence of a unique or extraordinary circumstance has been presented in that the applicant has created a self-imposed hardship by proposing an expansion without providing parking that meets Title 19 development standards. Staff therefore recommends denial of all applications. Please note that there are additional letters of support since publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
Good evening. My name is Joe Signor. I own Joe's Bar, located at 2851 North Rancho Drive. The reason why I'm here today, Commissioner Williams did come out to the property last week, and we did walk it, and I was able to explain to him a little bit better in detail exactly what I wanted to do. And what I want to do is to be able to designate an area in the parking lot behind the building to be able to play the game of cornhole. And while we play, I want to be able to serve alcoholic beverages.
Okay, thank you, Joe. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. I'll turn it over to the commission. Commissioner Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Signor is correct. I did visit the property with him to really walk through and get a better understanding of exactly what he's trying to do. I do have a question. With the cornhole, tell us again the proposed hours of operation.
Sure. So we normally play on Thursdays. We have a league. It usually lasts about 3 months long. We normally start at 7 o'clock. Sometimes games finish at 8, no later than 9 p.m.
Okay, good, because I was going to ask, would you be opposed to having an additional condition of not running beyond 9 p.m. There in the parking lot behind the business, place of business? So this is really a matter of being able to set up the game, football, have a good time. It doesn't, as far as the distance separation, just looking at with the church and the different things happening there, this was their first.
Correct.
Not even in view. I'm actually ready to make a recommendation, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner, Vice Chair DeSalvo has one quick question.
It's more of a question of curiosity. It says to allow 35 spaces where 146 are required. Did this property already have an original variance for the parking? Because that seems pretty substantial difference.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, it's I don't recall if the original one has a variance. I think it's just the expansion of the use precipitates all of that at a 1/50 ratio. And as such, you get that higher number of parking requirement.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Williams?
I'd like to make a motion for approval on item VAR 76903.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your vote. Please post. And that motion carries.
I'd also like to make a motion for approval on item SUP 76904.
Commissioners, will that be with your condition of the 9 p.m.
p.m.,
stop
absolutely.
sign? Okay.
Mr. Signor, you do agree to the 9 p.m.
Sometimes a match does last a little bit longer,
That's the recommendation.
Okay, 9 p.m. it is.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I could, the condition would read, the hours of operation should be limited to 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. within the expansion area?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Oh, wait, hold on. Just for clarification purposes, from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m., he's only allowed in 2-hour windows, so he can't do this at 6 p.m.? I don't want him coming back here if that's not what we're trying to achieve. Is he allowed to do it before 7 a.m.?
He is, this is really a noise issue for going
Yeah.
beyond 9 PM,
So anytime during the day, up till 9 p.m.?
up till 9 PM.
Okay.
Okay,
Right.
that'll work.
So you'll need a start
Okay.
time.
So, well, if it's over, the hours of operation shall be limited to 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. within the expansion area. Our noise ordinance is basically 7 a.m. for construction start, things like that, so.
Okay.
Okay.
There's a motion on the floor with an added condition. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And item,
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I saw he nodded his head, but if you can just get a verbal affirmation that he agrees to that new condition from 7 to 9.
Okay, from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. All right.
and item SDR 76905, motion for approval.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, those items will move forward to City Council on the October 16, 2019 City Council meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Williams, I'm going to challenge you to a cornhole tournament, too.
But not after 9 PM.
Not after 9. Okay, moving on to item number 21, abeyance SDR 76888, applicant owner Square Trades Holdings LLC. Oh, this was obeyed, excuse me.
We go to 26.
Yeah, thank you. Item number 26, VAR 77093, applicant Image 360, owner 5600 West Sahara Holdings LLC, for possible action and request for a variance to allow a proposed 50-foot tall on-premise freestanding sign where 40 feet is the maximum height allowed, to allow 3 signs on the street frontage where 2 signs are allowed, and to allow a 71-foot separation from an existing monument sign where 100 feet is the minimum required at 5600 West Sahara Avenue, Ward 1. Staff recommends denial. Could we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the subject site is Zone C2 General Commercial and is currently utilized as a motor vehicle sales commercial development. Currently, the site has 3 signs located along the Sahara Avenue frontage, 1 freestanding sign, and 2 monument signs. The signs currently do not meet Title 1908 sign development standards, which limit signage fronting Sahara Avenue to 2 freestanding signs or monument signs and require a minimum separation of 100 feet between the signs. The applicant has proposed to demolish the existing 40-foot tall freestanding sign and replace it with a new 50-foot freestanding sign in the same location, which must comply with current Title 1908 freestanding sign development standards. Staff notes that the 3 signs on Sahara Avenue frontage and the 71-foot separation from freestanding to monument signs are existing conditions on the subject site. Therefore, staff has no objection to that portion of the applicant's variance request. However, no evidence or extraordinary circumstance has been presented to support the applicant's request for increased sign height to 50 feet where 40 feet is the maximum allowed. Staff has determined that the proposed signage is inconsistent with Title 19 standards. Therefore, staff recommends denial of the request. Please note that additional letters of protest have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Terry Whalen. I own a sign company called Image 360, and we're representing the owners of this property, who were the owners of Newport Motors and Dana White. And just wanted to start off by saying, I've been in Las Vegas since 1998, and I've noticed that West Sahara, when I first came here, was like the hub of car sales, and it's kind of changed over the years. So, but the properties there are still very suitable for that, and so some people want to go back there and reinvest in that part of the city. And this is a good example of it. They want to establish a dealership there for Lotus Cars, which is a fairly high-end automobile. They have a unique situation in that they have large monument signs on each side. By the way, this is Ben, our project manager. Would you mind showing that one sign on the other side, the big sign on the side there? Yeah. This is a 50-foot sign that's typical of the ones that are on both sides of the property, and they're 20 to 30 feet wide. We're proposing a sign that is more streamlined, 13 feet wide at the top, that's a little nicer looking sign. But we would like to be able to have the height to have for the client to have the presence on the street of the kind of product that they're representing. So that's the reason we're asking for the 50-foot variance. Now, there was one thing that we didn't quite understand. We got word from the denial of staff day before yesterday, and we haven't been able to talk to them since then. But we weren't planning on any other signs being on the frontage other than this new 50-foot sign. And there is another smaller sign that's currently there that we will remove. So there's 2 signs that we will remove before, 3? Okay.
We'll remove both monument signs and the existing 40-foot pylon sign that's there, and then reposition the pylon sign so it's exactly dead center, 130 feet between each existing pylon sign there, so it's equal space in between the Auto Nation, the new Lotus, and then the Tobin.
Ben, what was your last name for the record?
I'm sorry, my name is Benjamin K., 6290 South Pecos.
Thank you.
I guess we really just want to make it clear that we're asking for the variance for 50-foot sign. We're not asking for a closer distance between signs, because we'll remove everything that's on the property to make that space correct.
Okay, thank you. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I will turn it over to the commission for discussion. Vice Chair DeSalvio.
The question I have is, compared to the Tobin motor car sign, as well as the Auto Nation sign, does anybody on staff know the heights of those 2 signs?
I do. They're 50 feet.
Can you please repeat that question? I'm sorry.
Okay, according to the slides here, the Tobin motor car sign, as well as the Auto Nation sign, do you happen to know the elevation of those, the height?
Through you, Mr. Chair, unfortunately, those signs were out of the scope of this application and were not reviewed as part of this request. We only looked at the signage that was proposed with this variance request.
Okay, I guess then I would ask the applicant if the applicant happens to know the elevation?
Pardon me?
Do you happen to know the height?
Yes, they are. They're both 50 feet.
Correct. Okay.
And that's the reason the owners would like to have a 50-foot sign. But they're willing to give up mass to make a sleeker-looking sign to make up for it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Rogan isn't here tonight, this is his ward.
Okay.
But I will say, I think we can hear it tonight, and if he does have any concern, or the councilman's office, they'll reach out to you. So I would like to have a vote on it tonight. I don't have a problem supporting it at the 50 feet, consistent with what the other 2 signs, but obviously with the condition that all the other signs are taken down and cleaned up there. The areas where just so I'm clear, was there 2 other smaller monument signs that would come down, or 3?
No, it's 2 monument signs and the existing 40-foot pylon sign.
And the existing 40-foot pylon?
Yeah.
And would you go back with some landscape in the areas?
Oh, of course. Yeah,
Yes.
they plan on redoing they plan on spending large money on that property.
Okay. Commissioner Schlafman?
Yeah, I'm ready to make a motion.
Please
Ready?
do. Yep.
On item number 26, VAR 77093, based on testimony heard tonight and an added condition, and Mr. Lowenstein's going to read that into the record for me.
All right. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chairman, based on the presentation, the condition would read the approval is for the sign height only, and all existing signs located along the Sahara frontage shall be removed and replaced by the one proposed freestanding sign.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, and it sounds like the applicant agrees with that. So, subject to staff's conditions and the added condition, move to approve.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. That motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, that item is moving forward to City Council on October 16, 2019.
Thank you. Thanks, Commissioner Schlafman. All right, moving on to related items 27 through 28. 27 SUP 77075, applicant owner 1015 Huntridge LLC, for possible action on a request for a special use permit for proposed parking facility at 1124 South Maryland Parkway, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Related item, 28 SDR 77076, for possible action on request for a site development plan review for proposed parking lot with waivers of the perimeter landscape buffer requirements, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Commissioner Chada?
Yes, Chair, I'm going to have to abstain from these next two items. I have an adversarial position on a case that's got pending litigation against 1015 Huntridge LLC. The case is Desert Creek versus South Main LLC. It's District Court Case A16748133. To avoid an appearance of impropriety, I'm going to abstain from these two items.
Thank you very much for the disclosure and the abstention. Can we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the subject site is undeveloped, Zone CD, designed commercial, and subject to Title 19 development standards. Pursuant to Title 1912, a parking facility is permitted in the CD zoning district with approval of a special use permit. Per the submitted justification letter and site plan, the proposed parking lot will provide 18 parking spaces, which will primarily service overflow parking for the shopping center adjacent to the north. While the applicant has requested a waiver to allow a reduced eastern landscape buffer adjacent to Maryland Parkway, staff finds the request acceptable as the applicant has provided sufficient landscaping materials in the proposed buffer area. Therefore, staff recommends approval of both requests subject to conditions. Please note that additional letters of support have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, fellow commissioners. For the record, John Curran, 985 White Drive, here on behalf of the applicant to briefly describe our project and answer any questions you may have. You heard it, SUP and an SDR for a proposed parking facility, 18 spaces, an overflow parking lot that will support the redeveloping Huntridge Shopping Center. We are requesting a minimum of 5-foot landscape buffer, where 15 is required on the east side along Maryland. But that matches the rest of the block, and respectfully request that you follow staff's recommendation for approval. With that, I'm happy to answer any other questions you may have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Curran. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? I'll need your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Hamilton, and I live at 1141 Francis Avenue. I live right next door to the eyesore that's there on the corner of Maryland Parkway and Francis.
Okay.
I would like to know how the wall is going to adjacent to my house. Is there going to be a drive-through where people are going to be ordering food right by our driveway? I want to know if people are going to be entering and exiting out of there, because there is a corner to corner where people walk across.
Okay. Any other comments you'd like to go on the record?
Well, also, is there going to be garbage cans in the parking lot? Are we going to have rats there? It's right next to my house.
Okay, thank you. I will close the comments, and then I'll give a chance for the applicant to respond.
Okay. Do I
Thank
be
you.
seated then?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you very
All right.
much. Thanks for
Thank
coming
you.
out. Mr. Curran?
Sure. Good evening, Kathleen. This is just 18 parking spaces. You're only going to access this lot to park in that lot. There's no drive-through. You're just going to drive in, park, and leave. There is going to be significant landscaping improvements made around the perimeter. I believe it's 18 trees. I can share the specifics on the landscape plan if you'd like, but it's going to be a major aesthetic improvement to the current conditions. So.
I don't have any speaking for the audience. I'm sorry. Mr. Curran, you have to kind of address us with it, just
I apologize.
To go through procedurally.
Understood. Through you, Chairman. If you want to put that down on the overhead, they can zoom into it and you can point to it, and then she can see from the audience.
Sure. So it may be more helpful to look at the site plan. This is the new swoop building, as we're calling it, that will be home to the Capriottis and Robertos. So the drive-through is here. This is actually public right-of-way, and this is the new lot that we're proposing. So no trash. It'll have a landscape buffered all the way around, and it's just you'll pull into park or pull out when you're ready to exit. So.
Okay, thank you. And, all right, I will turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Slotman.
Yes, Mr. Chair, and I'll address some of the comments, and I appreciate you coming out and staying with us tonight. So in looking at this, there's no no trash bin or anything on this particular site. We're talking about just the portion of the site that's on Francis and Maryland Parkway. We're not talking about the area where they have the swoop building, the one that kind of goes up and over. So we don't have any trash, and so that shouldn't be a nuisance. It shouldn't be attracting rats or anything over there because it's just cars. And then plus there won't be any parking, it won't be any cars going through that parking lot based on out to Francis. They'll have to go to the alley, back out to Maryland Parkway, and then they'll carry on. So that'll keep a lot of traffic from coming into your neighborhood. And so overall, there's a couple of requests for the landscape waivers for the buffer, but I think they did a pretty good job with the landscape, and as the Dapper companies usually do, or 10, 15 Huntridge, whatever, they do a great job with landscaping in their buildings. So I think this is probably the best that we can request of them. I couldn't find anything on this application to improve it any better. So seeing that, I'd be ready to make a motion.
Please do.
And that would, on item number 27, SUP 77075, I would move to approve subject to staff's conditions.
So motion on the floor, please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
And Mr. Chair, on item 28, SDR 77076, I'd move to approve subject to staff's conditions.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please. Oh.
And then if I just can make one comment, if maybe Mr. Kern can exchange contact information, kind of explain the project a little bit better, I'd appreciate it.
Certainly. Thank you.
Okay, that motion did carry.
Mr. Chairman, those items are final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 10 days.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 29, SUP 77094, applicant owner James Vanis for possible action request for a special use permit for an existing accessory structure use at 1301 South 6th Street, Ward 3. Staff recommends approval. Could we get the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the subject site has an active business license for a short-term residential rental use pursuant to approved special use permit SUP 73880, which was approved by the City Council on August 14th of 2018. Doing a routine site inspection regarding the existing short-term residential rental use, the subject structure was found to be constructed without building permits. The applicant has indicated the existing casita was constructed by the previous owner. As the existing structure meets all minimum Title 19 development standards, staff recommends approval of the requested special use permit pursuant to conditions. Please be aware that a condition of approval has been added to ensure that the proposed accessory structure adheres to the requirements of the approved short-term residential rental use, which states that the use shall not be included for the rental or occupancy of an accessory structure Class 1 or Class 2, a tent, a trailer, or a mobile unit. Please note that additional letters of support and protest have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you. Is the applicant here for item number 29? Oh, there he is. Mr. Vanis, we're on you. Need your name and address for the record. You tell us about your project.
Hello, thank you so much. Name is James or Joey Vanis, address 1301 South 6th Street. I have a casita in the back. It's been there since I bought the house. Just started getting notices about needing permit for it. So started the process of obtaining the permit, and here we are.
Okay. All right, this was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and turn it over to the commission. Commissioner Slotman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've known Joey for Mr. Vanis for years, but I didn't talk to him about this project, and I hadn't seen him in quite some time, so I'll be voting on this matter. Let me ask a question through you, Mr. Chair. So this was improvements that were made in the past by the previous owner?
That's correct.
And then how long do you think it would take you to get this thing, to get permits and get this approved?
Based on experience, probably 4 months.
I was going to say 120 days. So we had something here recently where we're looking at something and it had to come back before us because it's coming up next, because we put too tight of a timeline on it. So I would say I'd like to put a 120-day timeline on this and not have you come back and ask for, you know, any more time. Just get your plans in, get it approved and be on its way. Are you fine with that?
Okay.
So let's see, on, Mr. Chairman, if there's no other question or comments, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
And that would be for approval of item 29, SUP 77094. Move to approve, subject to staff's conditions, with amended condition number 3 that says all necessary building permits shall be obtained and final inspections shall be completed in compliance with Title 19 within 120 days from the date of final approval.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Mr. Vanis.
Sorry. Mr. Chairman, that item is final action unless appealed to the city clerk within 10 days.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 30, ROC 77077, applicant owner Stephanie and Brock Goddard for possible action request for review of condition of an approved variance to remove condition number 1 that states all necessary building permits shall be obtained within 30 days from the date of the final approval, and final inspections of such permits shall be accomplished within 60 days of the issuance of the building permits unless extended by the building official at 5050 Elkhorn Road. Ward 6, staff recommends denial. Can we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, staff notes that typically this type of condition is added for existing structures only to prioritize getting these structures legally permitted. However, in this case, the same condition was applied to both existing and proposed structures. However, staff notes that the applicant failed to submit any submittal for building permits for either the existing or proposed structures within 30 days in regards to building permits. Staff has determined that the non-action within 30 days in regards to the building permits is self-imposed, therefore recommends denial of the applicant's request. Please note that additional letters of protest have been received since publication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I get your name and address for the record, please?
Stephanie Goddard, 5050 Elkhorn Road.
Thanks.
Good evening, Sam Dunham, 4031 South Dean Martin Drive. I came to this prom dance a little late. Stephanie and her husband bought this house just a couple of years ago, and they applied for a front and side yard setback variance to install a patio cover. So during the process, it was discovered by the city of Las Vegas that this block wall was constructed in 2005, years before Ms. Stephanie and her husband purchased this house. So one of the conditions was to rectify the situation in 30 days. They got a residential designer involved, got the permits ready to go, went down day 32, I think, or day 37, something like that, to submit 7 or 8 days beyond the 30-day notice that they were given, or the 30-day timeline. So they have the plans ready to submit. We met with Public Works, Mike Cunningham. We sat down, tried to rectify the situation, and it didn't go anywhere. Legally, he couldn't do anything. But he did realize that, 30 days is not a whole lot of time for proposed structures. That's what they were trying to do, is get their applications all in one bundle. So here we are. We've got a situation where the block wall is still there. They need to submit plans for the patio covers. We need to remove the condition, condition number 1, in order to move forward. So if we deny it, we're nowhere. If we approve it, then we start moving on and rectifying situations that were created back in 2005, or started in 2005.
Okay. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and turn it over to the commission. Vice Chair DeSalvio.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I went round and round with this. I had the city try to look to see if they could find anything that would help expedite your situation as far as maybe some old drawings that you could at least know what mixed designs were, what the length of the footings, widths, thicknesses, but they don't have it.
We found them.
Okay.
We
that's
found
good.
some, so thank you for the help.
Okay, so with that, if at the direction I'd like to give, would 90 days from what you've already accomplished over the last 37 you talked about, adding another 90, would that be sufficient enough for you to get all your ducks in a row and obtain those permits that you need?
Well, we can submit, but I'm telling you right now, as a civil engineer, when I submit to the city of Las Vegas, timeframes are very long. The city's better than the county and much better than the city of North Las Vegas. But you're asking for us to predict what you can do, what your staff can do, and I know it's not your staff, but it is the building department and it is Public Works. So if we submit in a reasonable amount of time and staff doesn't get us comments in a reasonable amount of time, the 90 days may not work. You gave 120 days to the previous applicant, and he's got an existing facility, not new. So
Where are you at in the process right now, I guess I would ask you?
you're ready.
I already went to get the permits and
State your name for the record.
Yeah, so
State
they've
your name for the
submitted.
record.
Oh, Stephanie Goddard, 5050 Elkhorn Road.
Now, what was that comment you made?
I took all the plans when it was about, I think, 5 days after the deadline, and I went to pay for the permits and everything, and it was, the only holdup is to get the approval, the extension or whatever from you guys so that we can go down and actually pay for the permits now. Everything's already submitted and turned in. So they already have everything. They're only waiting on the approval from you guys to actually get the permit.
So then I guess I would ask Mr. Lowenstein, would 90 days be sufficient from today to obtain this objective that we're trying to get towards?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, my answer and suggestion back is that the proposed construction fall under the timeline of the variance. So if they pull the permit, then it's however long it takes to get the proposed construction. The real concern would be the existing block wall to make sure that's safe. And that, if they put it into one big package, that might delay how long it takes to get through permit review. But if they had the wall separated out, potentially they could have that review go through quicker and address that and not have the proposed construction to be under a timeline. Because the variance will run for 2 years, and if they don't exercise it by pulling the permit, then the proposed construction, they'd have to come back again for the variance. But for the existing construction, which is more of the concern, if you're looking at 90 days, I think a block wall permit in 90 days is more than acceptable.
Okay, so basically, let's take care of that one first.
Well,
So-
everything is submitted, and we're actually getting comments back. So it's a package now, and what I don't want to do is stop and start over. So it's together as a bundle, and I don't want to change that.
Well, it seems like the main concern of the city right now is the wall.
And the
to
permit-
get past that first, and then move on to the next.
And the original permit that they ended up finding from 2005, it shows where the footings have already been approved. They've already passed. So it's literally the only thing that has not passed on this permit is for the wall is the final. That is
Yeah,
the only
the final
thing that's
inspection
holding
was
us
never
up.
completed. on
That's
that
the only
permit.
thing that was never completed.
Well, it depends on what the original wall was permitted for.
Correct.
If it's
I don't
2
know the
feet
length.
and you're going to a 6-foot wall, then your footings hopefully can handle the 6 foot. But you will have a master package which has all of it in there, but when they issue building permits, they're going to issue it for one for their principal dwelling, and they're going to issue a separate permit for the block walls. So my original statement of it being broken out is the concern should be about the block wall being permitted and finalized within the amount of time. The proposed construction lives the lifespan of the variance, which is a 2-year time period, unless exercised.
If you think it can be done, we'll agree.
Well, the question, here's what the problem, I got the rub is when you were before me last month, over the 30 days, we weren't talking about your patio cover. We were talking about getting your wall dialed in 30 days. Now, you guys took it upon yourself to bundle this and make a package out of it.
No,
I'm
that's the
trying to
only
get
reason
this
we were-
wall taken care of first.
But that's the only reason we were ever brought here in the first place. That's why they wouldn't even approve.
But we
the
can't
variance.
move forward with the other thing until let's rectify the block wall first. Let's just get that out of the picture, because that's what's got this whole code enforcement thing going, is when you came out to have your accessory structure or your patio cover or whatever you want to call it, the block wall came up, and then as we dug into it, we found out that there was never a final inspection done on it. I don't even know what the height of that wall was supposed to be. I don't even know what the length of that wall at that point in time in 2005 was supposed to be. You could tell, I mean, I drive past that place every single day to get to my house, and you could tell where there's been pieces and parts added on over
been hit.
time, right? Looks like even
It's been
somebody
hit.
crashed through the corner.
Right.
I mean, so the concern of the city is the safety of that wall. And it's the concern for me, too, to make sure we get past that. I don't want any liability issues that we sit here and give you permission to do something and that wall falls on someone. Not saying that it would, but, then where does the liability lie? So, to me, I'm saying, can you get this done in 90 days to get the wall taken care of?
I'm assuming, yeah, we've already submitted for everything, so
Okay, and you agree to that, right?
Sure.
Okay, then I would make the motion to,
So-
with that condition, at the discretion of 90 days, you have 90 days to obtain your permits, and I would make a motion to approve that, ROC 77077.
Just to be clear, it's 90 days for the block wall.
Correct.
Only, because that's the predicament they were in with the proposed
Yes,
construction.
block wall only.
Permit, fine.
Let's get that taken care of.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes with the conditions. Please post. And that motion carries.
Good evening, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That is final action unless appealed within 10 days.
Thank you. Moving on to Director's Business. Item number 31, TXT 77205, applicant owner, City of Las Vegas, for possible action request to amend Section 4B, minimum requirements of the Town Center Development Standards Manual to allow waiver of the minimum distance separation requirement between a proposed liquor off-sale establishment and the following uses: another packaged liquor off-sale establishment and a liquor establishment, tavern, and to provide for other related matters. Staff has no recommendation. Greet the staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, this amendment would allow a waiver of the minimum distance separation requirement pursuant to the Town Center Development Standards between a proposed packaged liquor off-sale establishment and another packaged liquor off-sale establishment or a liquor establishment tavern. Staff has no recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Mr. Celeste, would you like to be heard? Nothing. Just hanging out, just hanging out, billable hours. Okay, turn it over to the commission for discussion. Do we have any comments on this? No? Okay, I'll make a motion. Item number 31, TXT 77205. I'll make a motion for approval. Please post, and that motion carries. Going on to item number 30.
One moment, Mr. Chairman. This item will move forward to the City Council in ordinance form. Thank you.
Thank you. It took the 7:30 under, so. Item number 32, TXT 77254, applicant owner, City of Las Vegas, for possible action request to amend LVMC, Title 19.10, Special Area and Overlay Districts, LVMC, Title 19.12, Permissible Uses, and 19.18, Definitions and Measures to allow city communication signage and to provide for other related matters. Staff recommends approval. Can we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Chairman, the proposed amendment would create a new sign category identified as city communications sign. City communications signs would allow varied messaging such as the advertisement of city events, traffic and emergency notifications, public safety notices, and off-premise advertising. These signs would be permitted within any zoning district if located on property owned or controlled by the City of Las Vegas or a City of Las Vegas related entity. Staff recommends approval. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. This was noticed as a public hearing. Anyone from the public like to be heard? No, seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. I mean, you're here. Come on down, Tony.
Member of the public for support.
Yeah. Can I get your name and address to the record, please?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Planning Commissioners. Tony Celeste, address 1980 Festival Plaza Drive-In, behest of the Deputy Director, Mr. Lowenstein. We like staff's recommendation and support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Celeste. Thanks for coming out tonight. All right. I will turn it over to the commission for discussion. Commissioner Chada?
Oh,
No? Nothing? Okay. Vice Chair DeSalvio?
I just would like to entertain a motion for approval on that item.
Okay.
Number 32, TXT 77254.
There's a motion on the floor. Please cast your votes. Please post. And that motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That item will move forward to City Council in ordinance form.
Thank you. And then just a point of clarification on item number 30, RLC 77077, condition number 1. Director?
Correct. The condition that was represented by Commissioner Del Savio would actually amend condition 1, number 1, because instead of deleting it in entirety, it amended it to read as he read into the record.
Thank you. That's how I understood it coming through. Thank you. Okay. 4 minutes. Citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. No subject may be acted upon by the Planning Commission unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, come to the podium and give your name for the record. The amount of discussion, subject as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. Anyone from the public like to be heard? Commissioner Schlotman.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we could go to 4 planning commission meetings a month, because, I mean, if the applicant misses something, we need to have a planning commission meeting about every 10 minutes. So just wanted to throw that out there. Anybody concurs?
I appreciate that, Commissioner Schlotman, but I think I'm looking to go the other way, to 1 meeting a month.
One meeting a month, I could go for that.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay, we've got a couple of people on that. All right, thank you for a good meeting. This meeting is adjourned. 7:20. Yeah, all right.